There are some really good designs in the Pokemon universe, but just like anything in this world, there are also some really ugly designs to complement them. These are usually just generally weird looking Pokemon that make you scratch your head wondering what the artists were thinking when designing them, or they're just flat out not liked by anybody and are generally frowned upon for being used for a team under any circumstance, unless they're actually strong Pokemon. Hey there, I'm Kamikaze, and today we're going to look at 10 ugly Pokemon that are actually strong or good to use on a team. Now I just want to say that these are by no means Pokemon that will carry your team if you decide to go all out with an ugly duckling Pokemon challenge, but if you want to spice up a new playthrough of a game, you might want to give these gremlins a try. Bear in mind that they're in no particular order based on strength or looks alone, as I find they are all nearly balanced in one way or another. With that out of the way, let's get right into it. At number 10 on this list, we have Crabominable, a Pokemon that absolutely nobody asked for. When Crabrawler was first teased to the world, there was definitely a lot of speculation on what its evolution could be. But I don't think there was a soul on the planet that would have expected it to turn into a woolly yeti hobo crab thing. I mean, what in the world? However, this strange looking crustacean has one thing going for it, and that's its 135 base attack stat that, paired with any physical fighting or ice type move, would definitely leave a bit of a dent in a team. Couple that with its Iron Fist ability and use a move like Close Combat, and ooh baby, you've got a Danny Rand in Pokemon form. However, the drawback to this Pokemon is its absolutely atrocious stats in literally every department, and the fact that it has 6 different weaknesses. Doesn't really make it the first choice for a fighting or ice type Pokemon for that matter. It's a nice way to try and shake things up a bit for a regular playthrough of Alola, but it's not what I'd call a first pick. At number 9 on this list, what do you know, another ice type, Jinx. Now Jinx has definitely had its fair share of controversy in terms of being, well, unappealing, considering the fact that it's a humanoid Pokemon with some extremely over-exaggerated body and facial features. It's definitely no beauty pageant winner, that's for certain. But Jinx's typing is fairly unique, and its stats really help to complement it with its fairly high special attack stat at 115. If you teach it heavy-hitting moves like Psychic or Ice Beam, it can definitely hurt your opponent's team, especially considering that it's got a speed stat of 95. Though just like with Crabominable, with its power comes its drawback, and where its special stats are phenomenal, just like most Generation 1 Psychic types, the physical stats are atrocious. It and Crabominable are definitely a bit of a glass cannon and should be used with extreme caution against any birds or fighting type Pokemon that you may use them against. At number 8 on this list we have Darmanitan, and I'm specifically talking about the Unova version of Darmanitan. Darmanitan already is an odd looking Pokemon to begin with, but it's worth noting that the generation it came from, which is Unova, has quite a few of what many consider the most hideous looking Pokemon in the entire series. Darmanitan on its own is a fairly decent Pokemon to use with its insane 140 base attack, but what makes it even more favored is its hidden ability Zen Mode, which will flip the script and make it a bulky defense machine, swapping its special and its physical attack stats around. The hindering effect of course is the speed drop, but it's definitely a cool mechanic to have when you're in a pinch. The problem however is getting that Zen Mode Darmanitan, which by normal means of gameplay is usually very difficult. There's no reason to go through the trouble of getting a Zen Mode Darmanitan either, since the ability will only activate when the health is half depleted. There are plenty of alternatives if you're looking for a heavy hitter or a temporary wall. Number 7 on this list is Ryperia. Now, I don't think that Ryperia in particular is super ugly, but compared to its other 2 evolutions, it's definitely a little odd looking. And that's probably because of its evolutionary item, which is the Protector, being the main aspect of its design. It just kinda stands out like a sore thumb. Ryperia, however, is a very powerful physical Pokemon to use, both offensively and defensively, and can wreak some havoc if used accordingly. Its drawback, however, is its special stats being fairly low, quite lower than average even. You can still make good use out of it if you know how to use it, but it's probably not smart to use against a special attacker, specifically one that can leave a big dent in it, considering that it's a rock and a ground type. But I'm sure that anyone using Ryperia would be smart enough to know that it's not wise to use it against a Pokemon that has a type advantage over it. Therefore, if you need something bulky that hits hard, Ryperia is the ugly boy for you. Once again, we turn to Generation 5 for another really ugly Pokemon, Druddigon. Most dragon types are really cool looking or have very memorable designs that actually resemble that of a dragon, but Druddigon, well, no. It's just What is it supposed to be? It's a rocky, spiky, weird bipedal lizard that looks like its color palette was chosen by a preschooler. Like, what was the design behind it? I'm sure you can tell that it's never been my personal favorite, but it could definitely be an asset to a team if you need a fairly tanky dragon type to use on your team. It has some fairly good defense stats as well as some great offense. With a proper moveset, it could actually be a potential MVP on your team, if you use it accordingly. However, considering that there are far better dual-type dragon types out there, you're more than likely just going to skip over this guy. Unless you're going for an all-dragon team maybe, but who am I to say? Even though Generation 5 has some of the ugliest designs, I don't think we should count Sinnoh out for having some gremlins either. Bringing me to the fantastic 5th Pokemon on this list is Probopass, and ugh. Nosepass already is weird on its own, but just giving it a weird pube beard and eyes that can pierce a hole through your soul, it probably wasn't the best choice on Game Freak's part. But if you need a Pokemon to hold the line while you use revives to bring the rest of your team back to life, have no fear, Probopass is here. This thing has an insane 145 defense stat and 150 special defense stat, meaning that it'll take quite some time to get the defenses chipped down. It's no Blissey by any means, but it's probably going to take some time before you can beat it down dead. This, however, is about the only good thing it has going for it, so I don't think you're going to lose anything by not having it on your team. Trust me, you should just burn the house it's in and move on with your day. And surprise, surprise, we have yet another Generation 5 Pokemon on this list, Conk Elder. I don't particularly find Conk Elder to be super ugly, even though it's not the most attractive looking of the bunch, but I feel like Girder definitely takes the cake as the ugly one. But in comparison to stats, it just simply does not compare. Conk Elder will hit like a truck, and with its fairly high HP stat, it can really be an offensive monster on your team. Its physical defense allows for it to take a hit, but like most fighting types, it lacks in the special department and also doesn't move nearly as fast as most fighting types. But with 140 base attack, it makes for a fairly heavy hitter, and can definitely be a great addition to a team if you're looking for a bulky battering ram to race some cane. Here we go again with another Generation 4 evolution that ends up looking uglier than it should, Magmortar. Now I think Magmortar is a fairly well-rounded Pokemon and it isn't necessarily the ugliest on this list, but a lot of people are definitely grossed out by its clown-like appearance. And to be fair, the Magmar line itself isn't really notorious for their devilish good looks, considering that Magmar's a butthead. Magmortar, however, has some incredible special stats for a fire type, with 125 base attack and 95 base special defense, which, shockingly, it ties for with its normal attack. So you can switch up between movesets if you're feeling ambitious, even though you'll more than likely want to take advantage of that really high special attack. For the most part, Magmortar is a fairly balanced Pokemon. Most of its stats are fairly average around the board, minus its defense. Although it's a bit of a chore to get from most normal gameplay, it's a good fire type to experiment with if you want to try and make a creative moveset. I think I'll have to do a tally at the end of this video for which generation has the ugliest Pokemon, because, yet again, another Generation 5 Mon appears on this list at number 2, that being Sigoleth. I don't even know what this thing is supposed to be. Apparently it's based off of Nazca lines or some sort of tribal thingy. I probably butchered that pronunciation, but geez, like, what is this design? All jokes aside, this is a Pokemon that I feel often gets brushed over because, well, who's gonna use it? After seeing its stats though, you may want to consider it for your team. Although they're fairly average for a single stage Pokemon, Sigoleth has some great typing and it's even better in the special attack department. Plus, add on with its base speed and you have a threatening fighting type nightmare, especially if you have Tailwind on its move pool. This thing can do some serious sweeping if you're not careful. Just make sure you give it the right moves, however, because it has less than desirable physical attack stats. But like most psychic types, you're probably going to stick to a special moveset anyhow. Now before we get to the final Pokemon on this list, I want to take a look at a few quick honorable mentions of Pokemon that I felt could have been on this list but didn't quite fit either the ugliness factor or the strength factor. For honorable mention number 1, I present Seismitoad from Generation 5, no surprise. Although this is definitely one weird looking amphibian with fairly good HP and all around average stats, I felt that it wasn't quite as powerful as some of the others on this list. Competitively, however, it's definitely a great addition to any team. At honorable mention number 2, we have Bruxish, which is personally one of my least favorite Pokemon and probably the same for a lot of you. This thing is downright hideous. But similar to my number 1 spot, this has a lot going for it as it's a physical psychic type with a physical psychic specialty move, which is definitely a bit of a throw off. The problem is, since nearly every Pokemon weak to Psychic has very desirable physical defense, Bruxish isn't really anything that would place a dent in your enemy's team. For the third and final honorable mention, we have Purugly, which its name speaks for itself. This fat cat surprisingly has some serious speed and some decent attack, but because of its typing and less than desirable stats otherwise, it's not really anything to write home about. Other normal types like Snorlax and Zangoose would definitely outclass it despite the speed. And plus, it's just a big ugly cat. And now, for our final spot on the Ugly Hall of Fame. It's safe to say that Generation 8's approach at fossil Pokemon was definitely a strange one, but none stranger to come out of this mix is Dracovish. This deformed dino fish out of water has one of the most powerful moves in the game, however, if your cards are aligned correctly. All around, it has fairly decent stats, minus its special attack and speed, but the coup de grace on this Pokemon is its signature move, Fish's Rend, and here's why. Dracovish has a base stat of 90 for attack. Fish's Rend has a base of 85 for power, unless the opponent switches their Pokemon or Dracovish attacks first, which will double its power to 170. This move is a water type attack, meaning that Dracovish has the same type attack bonus from it. If Dracovish has the signature ability Strong Jaw, that 170 attack power is increased by 50%, meaning that this fatal blow of a move can cause some serious damage, and may make it one of the absolute strongest moves to use in the entire franchise given the conditions. It will leave a dent in your enemy's team if used properly. However, it is definitely a ugly duckling. I think it's probably one of the ugliest ducklings out there. And with that, we've reached the end of this tier list. Keep in mind this wasn't really in any specific order, I just paired them based on their looks combined with strength or stats. But what do you think of this list? Let me know in the comments below if you agree, or if you actually like any of these Pokemon, or even if you've used them before and can attest. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Thank you so much for your support thus far. This video was done based on a user suggestion from Instagram, so definitely be sure to leave your feedback where applicable. You never know if your video will become a future topic for the channel. Be sure to leave a like as well if you enjoyed, and tap subscribe with the bell icon enabled to join the Glaceon gang today and get instant uploads whenever I upload to the channel. That's it for now. Until next time, I'm Kamikaze, but you can call me Kai. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.